For over 50 years, Burlington's legacy has been great deals on coats for all weather conditions. So before you're caught unprepared for the winter weather, head to Burlington for name brands, quality items, and surprising fits for every family member. Stock up on coats, sweaters, and accessories before the cold hits, so you can finally stop avoiding the elements and start living comfortably. Warm up at your nearest Burlington location less than 1 mile away. Burlington. Deals, brands, wow.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
When you share your food, you share your heart. So what's on your table this holiday season? Save on your festive feast at Kroger with delicious deals on all the holiday classics. Or wow the crowd with something new, like a quinoa stuffed butternut squash. It's sure to add a pop of color to your spread. How about a sweet potato casserole with a crunchy oat streusel topping, made with care for the sweet tooth and the savory tooth? With Kroger, fill your table with love and watch as your guests' hearts get as full as their bellies. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, a podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels.
This season, we're exploring Sarah J. Maas's second installment in the Crescent City series. This is Jac.
And I'm Amy. This is part 2 of this week's episode, where we're discussing chapters 40 through 43 in House of Sky and Breath.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author.
This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
The interpretations presented in this podcast are just a few of many possibilities. Listeners are encouraged to read along and share their own analysis of the text.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series and extended universe spoilers may be discussed with or without warning.
Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
If you are enjoying the podcast, check out our Patreon for more exclusive content. You can find us at patreon.com/Book Talk for Book Talk.
Ethan talks to the Prime, and the Prime offers Ethan to be an alpha of his own little pack. But Ethan struggles with that choice. Quote, was it a betrayal of the wolves of his brother's legacy to leave the Volbaran pack to Sabine's cruelty? He's having an identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's really trying to figure out, like, does he want to even go there? Because Sabine is going to be a bitch. Like, she's just going to continue to be, eventually she will be Prime. And he's going to have to obey her no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a tempting offer, but it's like, doesn't make sense for his long-term goals.
Yeah.
And he gets to figure out what are his long-term goals. And, you know, it's just an all-around identity crisis, which you can see in this next quote. He brushed his hair back from his face. It was longer than it's ever been while playing Sunball. He couldn't tell if he liked it or not. Fuck, he couldn't tell if he liked himself or not. Do you see my note?
Yeah, I saw it.
My note is, dive in. A bit on the nose. Future Jac, I believe in you.
That was Wine Jac.
That was Wine Jac. Absolutely. So, I mean, it is a bit on the nose, but, you know, I think that's very Ethan to be really on the nose. Like, he was the one who was staring at himself, like, in the mirror as a wolf, being like, am I even a real wolf right now?
Right.
It's SJM attempting to give him depth and plot and development. I mean, it's not attempting, she's doing it.
Yeah, I actually really like this moment because of the parallel to Sigrid, the mystic, that he's going to go help right now.
Yeah.
Because who else has really long hair because she's never had to cut it?
Yeah.
Because she's been in a tank.
That's fair.
And when, I'll bring it up now, but at the end of the chapter, the scene.
Well, that's the thing I was supposed to remind you to say before we get into it.
I already did it.
Okay, good for you.
Thank you. I'm so glad I remembered too.
Yeah.
Something I bring up at the end of the scene, but I might as well bring it up now. The last line is, like, Ethan leaves and it's the wolf with no name sitting in the dark.
He is the wolf with no name sitting in the dark.
Exactly. Him and Sigrid are one and the same.
It makes sense why he becomes so obsessed with her.
Right, because I'll talk about it again later, but if he can help her, he can help himself. Just like Bryce, if she can forgive Tharion, she can forgive herself.
But it makes sense with her and Tharion. I don't like it with Ethan and Sigrid.
I think it's forced.
It's forced. And also, there's good in Bryce that she's, and we can see there. I don't want to say there's good in Tharion, but I haven't seen the absolute like shit in Tharion like I do in Ethan. I see like more struggling and like, complexity there. And I don't see that in Ethan. So that's why I kind of put Tharion a notch above him.
Yeah.
With Ethan, there's nothing, I don't want to say there's nothing redeemable, but there's a lot of like crap that I just don't think it's addressed or approved of. And it's the same way that I don't like Sigrid. Like she sucks. So the fact that they mirror each other makes sense.
Because they both suck.
They both suck. So Ethan goes to the astronomer because, quote, no one gave a fuck about him. And he's willing to risk himself. Again, it's like, let's go, Ethan, you're going to get some plot now. And
that's why no one gives a fuck about him, because he's just a plot device right now.
Truly. He talks to Sigrid, and we don't know what free means to her, right? It's something that she said the last time they saw her, and Ethan thinks, quote, freed. She'd been pleading to go back. He assumed she meant into the between place where the mystics roamed. He doesn't ask. And like, she's clearly capable of talking. They're having a nice little chatty conversation.
He's just like all other males.
He's like, yeah.
He doesn't know how to ask a female a question.
Like, wait a minute. Does she mean this? If only I had a way of knowing. If she was in front of me.
Too bad she can't talk.
Yeah, but it's because like Ethan doesn't care about her answer. Ethan cares about being in a pack and what does freedom mean. And he is currently free from a pack, but does he actually feel free?
Yeah.
So it's like the question isn't even for her, it's for him. And being a wolf, this is like you teased it out earlier, but like, God, this annoys me. For Ethan, being a wolf is what brings value. We saw it the way with Baxian. He called him like a dog. Ethan really respects that the Prime called Bryce a wolf.
Yeah.
And we're going to see it here again. Quote, your pack allowed this to happen? Rage boiled his blood. Claws appeared at his fingertips. Like, Ethan is disturbed about what he's seen, but he doesn't care until he realizes that she's a wolf.
Exactly. When Sigrid pushes back on Ethan, saying that she's meant to be here because there's a contract, Ethan gets mad and he says, quote, you are a wolf. You're kept in a fucking cage here. Now, okay, yeah, it's very on the nose. Goes back to your comment about freedom. It blows my mind that he didn't care about her until he realized she was a wolf. And you know what? What if the other two mystics are a wolf?
He never checks out. It's not until they're like, they even talk for a little bit and there's like a little bit of breeze and he gets a scent of her.
Yeah.
He's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. He's just so dumb.
I mean, and then it's like, you're an alpha. You matter even more. Like, not only does being a wolf matter, but like being an alpha matters more.
Yeah.
Like, he's outraged even more with that.
Yeah.
I find this moment to be interesting. Quote, Ethan scanned the place for anything resembling a blanket and found nothing. He only had his t-shirt, and as he reached for the hem, she said, don't. He'll know that you were here. And I know that SJM did this to make him appear like a good guy. Like, he's literally giving her the shirt off his back. Yep. Also, probably another reason to show off his abs. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I can't tell if SJM is like, look, he's genuinely a good guy. I'm forcing this to happen. But that it just doesn't, like, it feels a little forced of, like, you can't convince me that he's good.
No.
He doesn't care about the other two.
No.
So how is he good?
Yeah. Completely agree.
We come back to titles. He tells her, quote, you should have a name. And she says, well, I don't. It's kind of shaming. Like, well, you should have a name. Like, bitch, do you think in my little floating box, I do?
Yeah. Do I even know what names are?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't even give myself a name.
Her owner is called the Astronomer.
Yeah. He doesn't even have a name.
No. Sigrid then becomes Ethan's new cause because he can't do anything for his brother, right? He's come at a stalemate there. There's nothing he can do. Quote, it didn't sit right with him, with the wolf in his heart broken and lonely as it might have been. He had to do something, anything.
Only because she's a wolf.
Only because she's a wolf. That's it.
Only because she's a wolf. Yeah.
Does he care about saving the other two?
No. He doesn't even look at them. And this is where we get the moment at the end of the scene where Ethan walks away thinking, quote, the wolf with no name trapped in the dark. And I have to say, on some level, all of our heroes are the same. They're all focused on helping those that they see themselves in.
Yep.
Right now. Bryce looking out for Emil.
Yep.
Hunt taking Baxian under his wing.
Yep.
Right? He sees himself. Tharion is helping Bryce because he
sees her.
Himself.
Yeah, him and her.
Right? And he wants to be her.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's Ethan. Ethan who's had no purpose, and now he's found purpose, right? He was chasing after Connor, trying to make sure Connor was safe from the Underking because he had no one else to chase.
Yeah.
And now he's found a living being. So yeah, let's focus on the living wolf instead of the dead wolf.
Meanwhile, the two other people are in the corner and be like, hey, we're still floating over here.
I don't want to go back to the princess.
I wanted to be free. Yeah. Care about me.
Yeah, seriously. And again, like I said earlier, I really don't think it's about Sigrid. It's about Ethan. Yeah. It's about Ethan helping himself.
Yes.
By helping Sigrid.
And maybe that makes the third book more tragic.
Honestly, yeah.
Which could be good if that was...
Yeah, if that's the case.
If that was the intention and that was the case, that could be... this could be leading up to something epic with the storyline.
Yeah, it could be.
So, innocent till proven guilty. We get back to the River Queen, and Tharion is with the River Queen. Like, she's not just chilling on her own. And they're finally back at the throne room. However, she's not on her throne.
Mm-hmm.
She is in her humanoid form, sitting on the coral beside her throne. SJM, again, is setting us up to understand that we're not getting a hardcore ruling queen. This is not the queen that's trying to be intimidating, that's threatening. She's like off to the side, just chilling. It's at a contrast with Tharion's experience with her and what we're getting from this whole back and forth. Now, this whole thing is kind of frustrating and funny. Tharion and the River Queen go back and forth. Tharion wants more people for this trip, and she says that she's not going to risk it because she doesn't want 25 people to be spotted, which is like, in hindsight, a really good freaking choice because they all needed to run away anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, people are going to say that you're going to try to get me killed. And she was like, well, then it's your job to make sure they're wrong and stay alive. And so they're going back and forth. And he then, as a very dick move, threatens to go see her daughter. Such a shit thing to do. Quote, her lip curled upwards. I think you've caused her enough distress already. And I didn't put the additional quote, but he agrees. In his mind, he agrees with her. Like, you know what? On that front, she's not wrong.
I had to stop and ask myself. I was so glad that you pointed out the fact that the River Queen is not on her throne. She's next to the throne. Mm-hmm. She's in her humanoid form.
Mm-hmm.
How much is Tharion looking down on her right now? She is not in her seat of power. She is physically removed from her power, physically human.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The weakest of all beings on this planet.
Yep.
And so, of course, he's willing to say to her,
yeah,
people are going to think you want to get me killed and threaten her.
He is sassing her.
He is sassing her hardcore, and that is not something he did when she was sitting on her throne.
Not at all. Bringing her daughter into it was such a shit thing because on a level, it's like, hey, I'm going to go fuck up your daughter. Like, just by saying that, he's using it as a threat, meaning he knows what he's done to her.
Oh, yeah. He knows the power he has over the River Queen's daughter.
And that is and he knows that it's a negative enough that it's like good enough to be a threat to her.
Yep. Yep. It's so shitty.
It's so shitty. But again, it makes me interested in him more because he immediately agrees. Yeah, I have caused enough distress there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, again, I don't like him, but I like his character.
Yeah.
Ruhn and Day meet up and they're finally flirty. They're a little flirty McGee's. Like, she even calls him out on being flirty because he was like, I just said hey, and she was like, do you say it like that to everyone?
Yeah.
Like, no. I say it to you like that. Hey. Is that how he did it?
Hey. Probably.
I think he'd be like, hey.
Yeah. Hey.
Our like flirty male hays. Hey.
Hey.
This is why I don't have a boyfriend.
That's why I don't take men.
Different reasons, opposite ends, but it works out, yeah. So they're flirting, right? And Ruhn tells her that he's like ready for punishment because, they're going back and forth. And quote, she laughed a full throaty sound that he never heard before. I don't think you can handle the sort of punishment I dole out. His balls tightened. He couldn't help it. We're talking restraints, flogging. Yeah, like all of the above. Like it's actually really, if SJM knew what she was doing.
She knew what she was doing.
That is hilarious and sick, and I love it.
I wonder how many times Ruhn reflected on this conversation during Flame and Shadow when he's chained up and being like,
that bitch.
I should have known.
I should have known.
I should have known. She wasn't into BDSM. She was just into torture.
She even tells him that she's not into BDSM. Right? And then Ruhn kind of talks about sex, right? Because she's like, that's not my style, which makes sense. Like, she does it for a living, unwillingly.
Yeah.
So, of course, she wouldn't be into it in the bedroom. And Ruhn says, quote, "It's always ladies' choice with me. I'm game for anything." Such a fuckboy response, but the correct response.
That is, the
correct response.
It is a fuckboy thing, but not wrong.
Not wrong. What gets him off is women getting off.
Yeah, that is the right answer.
That is the right answer. Ruhn tells Day, though, that she reminds him of the wind. I thought it was cheesy, and I thought there was meaning behind it, but at this point I was on glass 2 of wine, so I was like, Amy? Meaning?
You did have a note that was like, do we skip this? And I was like, no, let me take it from here.
Yep.
So I think this is a moment of really great irony for me. And I want to read the whole quote so that you understand what I'm saying. Ruhn continues, quote, "Powerful and able to cool or freeze with half a thought, shaping the world itself though no one can see you. Only your impact on things. It seems lonely now that I'm saying it." Day responds, "Thank you for your kind words. They were accurate. You see me. It's more than I can say about anyone else." So Ruhn can see Day for her purpose and her role, that she's in this really crummy situation, but that she's helping change the tide against the Asteri, right? And yet he's going to feel betrayed when he sees her in person.
I'm so mad at this. Like, you're right. I see you. I know you. What? You're not someone who's extremely convenient, even though I know your true soul that you don't like what you do?
Yeah.
Such a dick.
And that's what the irony is. Like, he knows the inside, yet when he sees the cover, he still judges the book.
And then how much of it is judging the book, which he is, and how much of it is him being like truly freaked out about caring about someone, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
You
Absolutely.
know, I mean, either way, he's wrong.
Yes.
In the middle of their conversation, Ruhn thinks about the mission that's coming up. And again, I just want to, funny little moments. Quote, "And because Athlar was going, Bryce was going. And because Bryce was going, Ruhn was going. And Tharion would join them as the River Queen ordered him to." It was just cute because, again, like he's there for his sister. Like, well, Bryce is going, I'm going. Mm-hmm. And it just, like, again, runt forever. Day suddenly disappears, and we know it's because Pollux wakes her up for sex. Ruhn is able to get the vibe of what's going on, though. Quote, "Willing herself to yield, give over, become his, to find some way to savor this, teeth scraping at her nipple, clamping down." Having to mentally be interested is not consent. She is having to mentally tell herself she's okay with it. That is not consent.
Yeah.
Saying yes, going along with it, doesn't make it consent. Like, and I know someone would be like, that doesn't make sense, Jack. But it's like, if it's not allowed, yes, it's a no.
Yeah.
And this is like, you know, in this moment, in this act, she is consenting. She will say that. However, I just really want to double down on this. Day is doing this in order to keep her persona alive, in order to keep the ruse going on. She doesn't want to do this. That is not consent. So, making that very clear up here. Then we get this quote. "He knew what was happening, had gotten the sense of very rough sex, though he had the distinct feeling that it was consensual. It wasn't meaningful." Is this Ruhn not understanding the concept of willing herself and to, quote, find some way to savor this? Or is this SJM not committing to it? And I go back and forth on this because, like, Lydia will double down and be like, no, it was consensual. But the fact that Ruhn doesn't get it, there is subtext that it was not consensual. The underlining level. Upper level, it was, but underlining, it wasn't. And so I'm just kind of like, are you afraid to say it, SJM, or is Ruhn an idiot?
I wonder to what extent, and maybe I'm giving everybody too much credit, and but I do wonder to what extent it is predominantly a female experience to say yes with your body but not your mind. And that's, I mean, it's not...
No, you're right.
It's not that...
Men can't go through that or anything.
Men can't go through that.
Yeah.
But most often we're going to hear that from women.
There's so many times I have spoken to women and the conversation is, I didn't really want to, but I did it.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from centuries of women having to alter the way they think about a situation in order to survive.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm talking back in like, you know, medieval times, you're married off to someone and, you know, he's an asshole, but you have to tell yourself a narrative in order to survive.
Right. And you have to birth a bunch of babies and that's your only purpose in life.
And then you get some genetic trauma and the way that, you know, we're structured to think and understand and cope. Like consent is still a relatively, I don't want to say it's a new subject because, you know, that's been around forever, but like, you know, being able to talk about it this aggressively is still a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is like maybe because SJM, and I'm going to go lean into what you're saying, like SJM is a woman. And I think readers, predominantly women, are going to understand that inherently.
Yeah. And I don't think Ruhn can.
Yeah.
Because even though he has lots of trauma in his life, that is not a trauma he's necessarily had to endure.
Yes. But I will have more reason to yell at him. Let's continue. When they're reunited, I do like the way they're reunited. Mm-hmm. Quote, halting upon finding him kneeling. Then she dropped to her knees as well, flame again swallowing her whole. So they're knee to knee. They're humbled. They're on equal grounds. Mm-hmm. And it's sweet until Ruhn starts talking.
Trigger warning for content related to sexual assault, consent, and lack of consent.
Ruhn drills into her too hard. Quote, him saying you weren't, meaning raped, right? You weren't? No. He asked, albeit suddenly, and I said yes. Ruhn's insides twisted at the utter iciness. You didn't seem to have enjoyed it. Did you orgasm? That's absolutely none of your business. So this is also where I'm like, oh, bad of Ruhn or bad of SJN. Orgasm and being wet is a bodily function that can happen without consent.
Right. It's not something you can necessarily consciously control.
And there are times where rape victims, male and female, will orgasm, or their body will, you know, if it's a boy, a man will be erect or a woman will be wet. And again, it's a bodily function. It doesn't mean consent. And that is how predators will use that against a woman being like, or a man, again, it's like, well, you came.
Yeah.
Well, you were wet.
Yeah.
So
you
it
must
seems
have
like you liked it. Yeah.
Yep.
And Ruhn is using that logic in the other direction of like, well, did you come?
Yeah.
As if that has anything to do with it.
I totally get what you're saying.
But he's also being jealous.
He's being jealous. And to me, what this, I'm only looking at it from a different perspective because I can see this other perspective, is Ruhn's not shaming her for potentially orgasming or saying, you know, for him, I think in his mind, remember, we opened this book with him pleasuring a woman.
Yeah.
He believes in his ability to pleasure a woman.
Yes.
In my mind, he's comparing himself to the person that she just had sex with. And he wants confirmation that she didn't want it because she didn't orgasm.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, I you know, they were having a very sexual, flirty conversation. Mm-hmm. We know that he's into her. There's a lot of reasons so to your point, yes, there's a lot of other stuff, but
he's just being possessive in my brain.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm doing it Marxist lens, feminist lens.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's true. It's true.
That's a literary analysis for you.
I mean, and it's almost subconscious too at this point.
I know.
But yeah, for me, it's a
power play.
Yeah. He wants that sexual relationship with her. Mm-hmm. He wants to possess her, and he promises to give her an orgasm if she allows him.
Exactly.
So that man can't give you an orgasm. I'm going to give you an orgasm. I totally understand that.
Yeah. And then
my brain works that way too.
Yes. I know this conversation was probably hard for people, and I really hope that people don't listen to this being like, they're too hard on Ruhn. Like, Ruhn sucks and everything. Because it's like, this is an analysis. I'm doing it from the feminist point of view, and I think that it's okay to point things out. Mm-hmm. And I in no way, shape, or form think that Ruhn is like, you know, a rapist asshole or anything like that. No. You know, but you gotta kick the tires. Yeah. But again, to his credit, though, he is emotionally vulnerable right now because she asks him, you want me to stay? And he says, quote, honestly, yeah, I do. Like, he's willing to put himself out there.
Despite this little moment of tension and maybe misunderstanding. They do have a cute little final exchange before the chapter is over where they both tell each other they like the sound of each other's voice.
Yeah.
And, we know sound is important to Ruhn. And it must have been vulnerable for him to be like, I like the sound of your voice. And then for her to reciprocate.
The first time, I'm going to bleep this out, his name. The first time I talked to it was on the phone before we met on a date.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being like, oh, no.
I vaguely remember you telling me that.
But, good guy. Chapter 43 starts with an oddly peaceful moment.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think you're gonna mention a little,
Yeah.
You hinted to it earlier. Quote, Hunt breathed in the cool air off the turquoise sea, admiring the pristine water, so clear that he could see the coral and the rocks and fish swimming among them. All of this is before a huge bloodbath. It's
ironic,
but, it kind of goes back to maybe stop and smelling the roses.
Yeah, exactly. So I do feel like this is that moment back in the barracks. Hunt has perspective in a way that he's not really had ever. He's able to stop and see and appreciate the little things. And actually, it comes back again at the end of the chapter, which I didn't realize until I got to the end of the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, Hunt stood in the shadows just within the mouth of the cave, focusing on the bright open water ahead and not the reek of the oil on the ancient mechsuits currently helping to unload the ship into the fleet of awaiting vehicles, laundry trucks, food trucks, moving trucks. Now, we see this moment where he's trying to appreciate the good, but it's getting interrupted by the chaos of the rebel base around him. I did love this, that the rebels are relying on mundane, simple vehicles that are associated with like human blue collar or jobs, which is the exact opposite of what we can imagine maybe Asteri war machines looking like.
Mm-hmm.
Does it seem pathetic? Does it make the rebels seem scrappy? Or is it actually really smart and a smart use of disguise? Unfortunately, though, because the rebels are so willing to mask themselves in their humanity, I do think it comes back to bite them in the ass. Because as we see in Flame and Shadow, the Asteri are just going to bomb the entire human area.
Boom. Done. All right, move on. You guys can't regenerate.
Yeah, it's awful.
I want to look into this quote. Hunt hadn't failed to notice that Ruhn kept reaching over his shoulder, as if to seek the reassuring presence of the Star Sword. It seemed the male was missing his security blanket. All right, that sounds a little snarky, but I don't think it's as snarky as it sounds. But it reminds me of Bryce missing Danika's sword just in the last episode. And, it's a similarity between the two, but I also feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's going to go more into missing it because, like, he's truly going to not have the Star Sword.
Yeah.
After this,
Yeah, this is a big turning point in the entire journey.
Yeah.
I do love that in this scene we get some breadcrumbs and we see it in the form of food as power. Now, the entire team is feeling sick because Cormac has teleported them from Lunathion to Ydra. And Tharion says out loud, quote, I shouldn't have eaten my breakfast. And I think we should see it as some foreshadowing for how the group is weak and they're about to not be in the greatest of situations.
Yeah.
Hunt thinks in this moment about how resentful he is of Tharion's presence because Tharion showed up when Hunt and Bryce were making out that morning, when Bryce could have been telling Hunt about a meal. Quote, that would all have to wait, but his mate had gotten him out of the barracks. He'd repay her generously tonight. Kinda. Not in the way you're thinking, bro.
I mean, like, they will have sex that night.
Yep.
So that's coming. Literally.
Yeah. Now, this entire chapter is going to have a ton of Bryce and Emil clues.
Yep.
And that's important because Hunt's going to figure it out before the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call out everyone that comes up. Tharion, at this moment, is questioning Cormac about Pippa and does Pippa know where Emil is? And Cormac tells Tharion that if Tharion tries to corner Pippa for the information, there will be a battle. So he's like, don't do it, bro. You're dumb. Quote, Tharion swore, and Bryce patted his knee in what Hunt could only guess was an attempt at consolation. It's very patronizing. It's very much someone who's like, I know better, but I'm going to try to comfort you.
Yeah.
And like I've said in other instances like this, if Bryce didn't know where Emil was, she would also be pushing Cormac about, like, we need to question Pippa. We need to find out where Emil is.
For someone who's so concerned about him, she's like,
not concerned
I don't need to talk to her at all.
Exactly. What I like about this scene, and what I've liked about the moments leading up to this, I actually think that this twist is better than the twist in Earth and Blood.
Completely agree.
I think SJM does a way better job setting this up than Hunt's betrayal was ever set up.
Agreed. Controversial opinion.
Controversial opinion.
Hot takes here at Book Talk for Book Talk. While the rebels are covered, the main crew are not. The main crew being like our main characters.
Oh yeah.
So the rebels are all like covered up, and I think that it was interesting that our leading characters did not wear a mask or something.
Yeah, they don't worry about their own safety.
Yeah,
at all.
Like, wouldn't you be a little concerned about someone reporting this back? At this point, Cormac is literally the only one who knows about their involvement.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting move of like, are we going to breeze right past that now this is like the point of no return? They're going to know that you're involved. Mm-hmm. That's all. Okay, continue. So you can look at it though as that their attitude are their masks. Quote, the rebels, all in black, many with hats or masks on, stared at them as they passed. None of them smiled. One man grumbled, Vanir pricks. Tharion blew him a kiss. Ruhn growled. It's putting on an image, you know? Like, they're kind of like, we're scary Vanir like you think we are.
Yeah, but I love that Tharion is channeling Bryce right now by blowing a kiss.
Hunt, to me, I think, is one of SJM's best character depictions of PTSD because of how consistent it is. I think she's done a good job with other characters, and, you know, maybe Nesta's the other option of that. But we've had so much of Hunt and his perspective that at this point I can say, like, yeah, I think she's done it the best with him. Quote, Hunt clicked his tongue. No pressure, huh? He suppressed the memory of Sandriel's face, her cruel amusement as she watched what he'd done to the suits on her orders. Everything comes back to, not everything, but like the PTSD stuff comes back time and time.
You know what's, is it ironic? I don't know if that's the right word. But there are similarities with how much Hunt comes back to his PTSD and Sandriel, and the way Ethan is constantly being reminded of his Sunball connection. What works, though, for Hunt does not work for Ethan.
It's so true, though. It's like, hey, here's this thing that is really vital to your character, to your development, to your story, to your actions. Now, PTSD makes sense. Sunball does not.
Yeah, exactly. A sport is not sufficient.
No.
Just a fun little note. Pippa shares a code to access the mechsuit with the crew, and the code is 73425. And I sat there thinking for a long time, why is this important? Well, 34, 3 plus 4 is 7, and 25, 2 plus 5 is 7. So really it's 777.
Which will also be when Taylor announces Reputation. We meet Pippa, and this is the first time like we've seen her before, but like we feel like we get to meet her again.
But I feel like this is the first time we're seeing her through the protagonist's eyes.
Yes, thank you. And she's wearing the rebel uniform, quote, arms with sinking sun emblems. Like, you know, SJM is like, they're doom and gloom. It's a sinking sun. But I want to bring it back to titles. Pippa isn't afraid of them at all. And she uses it by exploiting their titles. Quote, we're waiting with bated breath for your analysis, Umbra Mortis. It was practically an order, but the way she said his name definitely carried that as a threat. She's not afraid to use their titles.
She's not afraid of the Umbra Mortis. Most other Vanir are. Are there moments where you could say Pippa's a badass?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
However, there's nothing likable about Pippa. And that's where we see how, in this sequence, how power corrupts humans just as much as power corrupts Vanir. We learn that Pippa thinks Cormac is angling for her position as leader of the Valbar in front. And she acts like her position's being threatened and she's so much better than Cormac. She says to him, quote, I would have worked with you to find a meal, but you wanted the glory for yourself. I don't know why I wrote flower, but it's glory. When Cormac demands that Emil is a child and not a weapon, quote, Pippa sneered at them all. It must make it easier for you if you pretend you're better than I am. No. She has I did not put it in my notes, and maybe we should not include it, but she has short man syndrome.
No, we'll include it. She's got like a little tiny dick short man syndrome. Yeah.
It's like she has so much to prove. She's been put down so much throughout her life that she's got this need to prove everyone that she's powerful.
She was not picked first in Sunball.
No, she was not. To me, though, throughout this, it's, again, clear we're getting to the big Emil reveal. Tharion accuses Pippa and her team of torturing Vanir to find Emil because of the human scents and the lightful uniform pieces that have been found near the dead bodies. Quote, Pippa's lips curved into a cold smile. You arrogant, narrow-minded Vanir. Always thinking the worst of us humans. You're too coiled up in your own snake's nest to see the truth. Or to see who among you has a forked tongue. True to form, Bryce stuck out her tongue to the soldier. I laughed so hard when I reread this paragraph. I was like, damn, SJM, like, you are being so open at this point. Like, we're in a snake nest. What do we think? Viper Queen, because Viper is a snake.
Yep.
And you can't see who among you has a forked tongue, and then Bryce sticks out her tongue.
Yeah.
Meaning her connection
to
the situation and all the lies. My gosh.
Oh my gosh.
It's just, it gives me goosebumps, even though it's obvious. Because in the moment, I was just like, what? What's going on?
What I really like about Pippa is that she is clearly bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think SJM gives her an inch or room for redemption.
Mm-hmm.
We know she's bad. But she uses some very similar lines as our heroes and similar logic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go back to one that you said earlier where she says, you pretend you're better than I am. Tharion said that to Bryce.
Yeah.
And then her other quote, right? You're arrogant, narrow-minded Vanir, always thinking the worst of us humans. That's Bryce, if I've ever heard a quote.
Yep.
So what I like about Pippa is that she is so easily wrong, right? About everything else.
Right.
However, she's sprinkled with truths and things that make her reflect on the heroes. But Bryce isn't bothered by it, right? It's a stand, even though it's a stance that she would have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason why she's not bothered by it, because I was like, why isn't Bryce kind of sitting here being like, shit, you're right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's because in this moment, she leans into her Vanir. Quote, she held Pippa's gaze and a chill went down Hunt's spine at the pure dominance in Bryce's face. You know? So it's like, she's not pissed off because she's like, no, I am Vanir, bitch.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out a wild theory.
Do it.
I think Pippa is in lust with Cormac.
Okay. Okay. Please tell me why you think this.
I'm not entirely convinced I am, but let's continue. Quote, Pippa faced Bryce, though. You're Cormac's bride, yes? No kindness, no warmth filled her tone. Bryce flashed a female smile. You can have the job if you want it so badly. Pippa bristled.
Go ahead.
No, I saw you were about to say something to go against it, and I was about to be like, I'm not like married to this. I just thought it'd be an interesting concept.
No, it is an interesting concept, and I actually thought a lot about it when Bryce said this.
Oh.
And
so you had similar thoughts.
I had thoughts about it, but I'm not sure if Pippa really has lustful feelings for Cormac. I mean, he is a beautiful Fey prince. The probability of that is very high.
That she's in lust?
Yes, that she's in lust with him. However, Bryce also weaponizes sex and feminine, and the title of wife is being weaponized against Pippa.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that it has to, because Pippa's reaction, Pippa bristled, could be, how dare you, you caught me in my truth. Or it could be, how dare you, that's so disgusting to me.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's hard to interpret, and I don't know if there's enough evidence
to support it. I agree.
Support it.
I'm good for that. You eased me into that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. And now a word from our sponsors. There is nothing more frustrating when you're stuck between back-to-back meetings and all you need is a quick meal, but you want it to be delicious. You want it to be fresh food. And finally, you can have all those things with Factor.
Factor has no prep, no mess meals with 35 different options and 60 add-ons to choose from every week that are honestly so delicious.
I'm genuinely devastated that I don't have my factor this week because now I actually have to think about what I'm doing. Instead of restaurant quality meals with premium ingredients, I mean, we're talking filet mignon, we're talking shrimp, we're talking blackened salmon.
We love those things.
Huge fan. I will be getting my factor next week. And you could be getting your factor too.
Head to factormeals.com/booktalk50 and use code booktalk50, BOOKTALK50, to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month.
That's code booktalk50, BOOKTALK50 at factormeals.com/booktalk50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. I cannot tell you how much I love these factor meals.
Give it a try. You will be thanking yourself later.
You're right. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
For over 50 years, Burlington's legacy has been great deals on coats for all weather conditions. So before you're caught unprepared for the winter weather, head to Burlington for name brands, quality items, and surprising fits for every family member. Stock up on coats, sweaters, and accessories before the cold hits, so you can finally stop avoiding the elements and start living comfortably. Warm up at your nearest Burlington location less than 1 mile away. Burlington. Deals, brands, wow.
So Hunt starts to investigate the mechsuit. Now, this is the new mechsuit prototype from the Asteri. And as he's looking around, he recognizes that within it is Gorsian ore, which is a tool commonly used against Vanir. They use Gorsian ore in bullets to dull the magic of a Vanir when they're shot. In doing so, using something unnaturally un-Vanir, they are now able to create a mechanical Thunderbird almost, if that makes sense. Hunt explains, quote, "If I'm right, it can draw the first light from the ground, from all the pipes of it crisscrossing the land. These suits would draw up the first light and turn it into weapons, brimstone missiles made right there on the spot. The suit would never run out of ammo and never run out of battery life." Which is a really fascinating thing. Basically, the Asteri have figured out we've killed all the Thunderbirds, and we can't use any Thunderbirds, but we can create something that's like a Thunderbird.
Yeah, but to their advantage.
Yeah, and it's very warped because they're using something that is inherently un-Vanir.
Yeah.
And it's creepy. I think it's supposed to be unnatural, almost paranormal-esque from our point of view, because it's not supposed... The logic doesn't work, but it does work.
Yeah.
So one of the descriptions about the mech suits is that they are metal sarcophaguses, which is a breadcrumb I will leave for the breadcrumb section. But if we think about it, another reason why we can view the mech suits as sarcophagus, or sarcophagi, as the plural, I guess, is there are these mech versions of Thunderbirds. And so it's created this really awful, tragic circle in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Vanir First Light is harvested from them during the drop.
Yeah.
And then Vanir who oppose the Asteri will be killed by these mechsuits that are drawing First Light from the ground. So the killed Vanir will then be harvested through Second Light to then continue to feed the Asteri and these suits. And it just creates this vicious cycle that nobody can get out of. It's just very sad.
It is.
I believe we're also seeing some setup for the final battle in Flame and Shadow in this moment. Quote, a Vanir warrior could climb inside and essentially wear it like an exoskeleton, like armor. Which is important when you think of sarcophaguses. Who occupies the mech suits in the final battle? Mummies, that's exactly right. Yeah. Yet, while Hunt and the rest of the Vanir team are looking at this in horror, Pippa sees this as humanity's chance to finally wreak havoc and retribution, allowing humans to become better than Vanir. Quote, we'd at last have a source of magic to unleash on them, make them understand how we suffer. The Vanir deserve everything that's coming to them. And I could see how someone like Pippa would use mech suits to overpower Asteri, overpower Vanir, and just become a new form of tyranny.
It's what Tharion described, thinking of the River Queen.
Yep, absolutely. One more meal breadcrumb before I turn it to Jac. Pippa tells the group, quote, he's not a helpless baby you think he is. He found allies to protect him. By all means, go retrieve him. When Tharion asks where Emil is, quote, Pippa smirked. Somewhere even you, Mare, would fear to tread. I'm content to leave him there, and so is command. Bryce is very quick to change the topic. She's like, let's talk about the suits again.
Hey, over there. What, like, look over there. That's a great thing. Please stop talking. Pippa sees Bryce as a threat. And kind of like coming back to what you're saying, where it's the weaponizing of feminine, like with the concept of bride, like you're his bride, where she's trying to belittle Bryce. It happens again. Quote, well, you're busy getting your nails painted, princess. Good people are fighting and dying in this war. Bryce wiggled her nails at the rebel. If I'm going to associate with losers like you, I might as well look good doing it. Attacking the feminine, like just like, again, as someone who has her nails done, I don't appreciate it. Yeah. You can fight in a war and look good doing it. But like, you know, it's Pippa trying to find Bryce's weakness, and she's not finding it.
Yeah, and it just makes me mad because why does a woman have to put another woman down for her femininity?
Can't we just start putting each other down for our intellect, our values, our
not you did your nails.
And you might have a sexual history or not.
Yeah.
Sorry, side note. I remember in college there was that website, I can't remember, but there was like a website and it used to like people would post pictures and talk shit.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
I ended up on there. Did I tell
you?
Yeah, it was before I met you, and it was like a Halloween photo, and I was like dressed up as like a gothic ballerina, and I had my black corset on, and I had like a black tutu. I looked cute, you know, and whatever. And someone wrote on there, and the insult that they had for me was, she's practically a virgin. And that was like the insult. And it was I remember feeling so like confused of like, well, I was like, what? Which way do I go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at that point, I'd only had one boyfriend, and I just was like, what's the insult? Like,
yeah.
Is it wrong that I haven't had more sex, or is it wrong that I have had sex? Like, it doesn't even make sense, the insult. It's just like, you're talking about like the dumbest insults of like when it comes to sex. And there's like, no matter what, there's no right answer.
No, there is none. Where you will be put down for anything.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
We then get to the moment where Pippa gives a signal for the Ophion soldiers to kill all the Vanir volunteers. During this moment, Hunt tries to protect Bryce. Quote, blood sprayed, and Hunt flung out a wing, shading Bryce from the mist of red. And we go on to see how everybody else, Ruhn, Cormac, they're all covered in blood. I saw this almost metaphorically as Hunt trying to make sure that Bryce doesn't get her hands dirty and is willing to take on the brunt of whatever is going to come towards them, which is super true to character. But I think what struck me most is that the Ophion rebel group is no better than the Asteri.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the book, we learn that Sophie's grandparents were also killed by lineup and being shot. And that's what Ophion's done to these Vanir who were trying to help them and believe in their cause.
Such horrible, but like great for SJM being like, nope, we're going to go there.
Yeah, and it's just reinforces this idea that Ophion sucks. Ophion sucks and is no better than the Asteri in a lot of ways because no matter what their end goal is, the ends don't justify the means.
Yep.
And then just another I hate Pippa rant. Pippa tells the group, quote, "The order to put the crew down came from command. I am their instrument." Now, I don't care what side of gun laws you're on in this country or in this world, but some people will say, doesn't matter which side, that guns aren't the problem. People are, the people who use them, because guns are just an instrument. And that's what Pippa is saying here. I'm not bad. I'm just an instrument. Command is the one directing me. And it's just shit.
It's shit. But you know what it also reminds me of? The Hind, saying that she's an instrument of the Asteri. And they're both part of Ophion.
Yeah.
And they're both rebels.
Yeah.
And the one who is actually good is the Vanir.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Irony.
But the irony of it, though, is like, I think what we can see is the excuse of I'm just an instrument is bad because it's the excuse that the Hind gives about being an instrument of the Asteri. And we know that's bad. Like, that's a clear, not a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, we're flagging it. That's evil. So if Pippa's using that argument, I think that's SJM saying, hey, that's a weak ass argument.
Yeah. It's not good enough. And I think what it also does is it takes away the humanity out of Pippa.
Yes.
For her to say the same thing as the Hind. You might as well be an empty shell, Pippa. You might as well. You don't even have to be human at this point because there's nothing human about you anymore.
Yep, absolutely.
So at this point, Pippa and the rebels turn away and they're leaving. Why do they leave everyone there? I don't understand, but you know.
Okay, math.
Tharion and the group, they're hanging out.
Yeah.
Somehow they haven't been shot themselves. Don't know. Tharion is still convinced that Pippa knows where Emil is. Bryce tells Tharion, if you can trust her.
Yeah.
And when Cormac says, Tharion, okay, fine, go interrogate Pippa if you really must. But again, remember, you risk war. Bryce chimes in and says, quote, I'd stay the hell away from her. And it's this moment where Hunt finally figures out, Bryce?
Thou doth protest too much.
Exactly. He is noticing the pattern of Bryce not trying to pursue information about Emil, even though A, it's been going on a while. B, she wants to save Emil. Quote, Hunt tucked in his wings, assessed his mate. She slid her gaze to him innocently. Too innocently. She knew something. She dropped the, who me? Expression and glared at him, as if to say, don't you fucking rub me out, Applar.
I feel like you and I have had this conversation.
Absolutely.
We 100% had the exact same eye conversation.
Yes. I know. I've definitely thought about that too. What this is telling me is Bryce is signaling, yes, you're right. Yes. Shut the fuck up.
Yep.
You know, right? She wants to let him in on the secret. She's okay with letting him on the secret. But like, really, right now?
I know. This isn't it.
And again, I go back to it. She could have told him this morning.
She couldn't have, though. Like, she knew people were coming, and this would have required a much bigger conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she could have easily been like, hey, you've been gone. I found Emil. I'm keeping it a secret, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, bye. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, like, I think it definitely requires more of a sit down.
Yeah. No, that's right. I am giving her too much crap.
No. I think you're giving her fine crap. I think it's our job and civic duty to give these people, these fake characters crap. I think the reason why we have to kick the tires is because, search from every opportunity.
Yep. Now I want to go into this moment where I think proves that Ruhn and Hunt are good males and they're very alike and goes back to the runt argument.
Runt. Runt.
It sounds like rut.
Yeah, I know.
Which is what pigs do.
Okay.
When they're in, male pigs do when
First
they're in
off,
heat.
It's what
males.
A lot of males do. And if you use it in romance novels,
it's hot.
And it's hot. So why are you using pigs as an example?
Because that's I think that's the first time I learned the word rut or rutting.
You just need to leave pigs out of this podcast. I need you to take your fucking pigs and your knowledge about pigs out the fucking door, Amy. You mentioned pigs one more time. You're buying me bacon. Hope you're happy.
Or spicy pork.
Spark pellet, you do owe me. You do owe me. Spicy
Yeah,
pork belly.
I do,
Okay, fine. You can tell me all about pig's balls while we eat.
You don't want that.
No, I don't. I don't want it now either.
I wasn't. Okay,
You know so much about their sex organs and their sex. Continue.
It was in books that I read.
Run.
Stop it. The group talks about the likelihood that Pippa will attack Lunathion. Quote, Hunt said, I can't let them do that. Even if I wasn't in the 33rd, I can't let them attack innocent people. They want to go head-to-head on some muddy battlefield, fine, but I'm not going to let them hurt anyone in my city. Me neither, Ruhn said. I'll lead the Ox against you, Cormac, against Ophion. Tell command if they make one move, they can say goodbye to their contact with Daybright. My note. Ruhn equals Hunt. Or no. Hunt equals Ruhn equals somewhat incestuous relationship we wanted for Bryce.
God, I want it so bad. I don't support incest.
I don't either.
I do support them not being related.
I do also love that in this same sequence, Hunt calls out Bryce for being a master bullshitter spinner because he's annoyed about her keeping the meal secret, and she's equally annoyed because she's like, no, stop taking it out on me. Despite their silent annoyance with each other, Bryce tells Hunt to light it up. And we talked previously about how light it up is an expression of love. And I thought that was really beautiful in this moment, that they can be annoyed at each other about keeping secrets.
Yeah.
But she can also be like, I love you, I trust you, destroy everything.
Yeah. Because that's what gets her hot.
That's right. Two things can be true. You can trust, love, and protect each other. And you can still be fucking annoyed.
Yeah.
We switch then to Bryce's point of view as Hunt starts to destroy everything in the Rebel base, and she's into it, as we expect. Despite Hunt going on a rampage, though, he's always aware enough to protect Bryce, which is super important in this scene, because it's just going to be more important again when we get to the big sex scene.
Yep.
Quote, the walls shook, stones falling, and then there were wings blocking her, protecting her.
Just like a bomb. And he protected her then.
Yep.
But Bryce is so into it, though. Like, she's just so into him blowing things up. Quote, Bryce couldn't help but marvel at the sight of him, like a god of lightning, like Thur himself. She wants that Umbra Mortis bad, but she wants him when he is Umbra Mortis.
Yeah, exactly.
I do love, before, I don't know when to insert this note, but, like, they blow everything up, and I think it's, like, Cormac or something who's like, the suit just exploded on their own.
It was an accident.
I had no idea what was going on. It just, I'm like, did you think that was going to work?
It was desperate.
Yeah.
The group obviously has to escape on a speedboat at this time because nobody believes Cormac when he says it's an accident. They shoot him instead.
Yeah.
And he can't teleport them away. So they take the speedboat away from the island toward Lunathion after Bryce has blinded everybody. Hunt looks back. It's Hunt's point of view, I think, and sees, quote, billowing smoke rippling from the broad cave mouth, like some giant was exhaling a mouthful of mirthroot.
I didn't even remember reading that.
It's an odd image.
It sounds like some kind of Ruhn point of view shit.
Exactly. It made me think of Ruhn at the start of the book when he's on mirthroot, and it's kind of a funny sort of image that doesn't feel scene appropriate.
I feel like SJM had a really good description in her head and thought it was funny and was like, I'll just put it in.
Yeah, maybe. I don't feel like it's appropriate for Hunt's point of view.
I agree. No, I agree with everything. I also can see her being like, oh, I bet I like this.
Yeah, it's a good description.
Yeah.
So why get rid of it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the scene could have easily been written from Ruhn's point of view at some point.
It can, but it can't, because in this moment we see how focused Hunt is on Bryce.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, Hunt swept Bryce into his arms and jumped into the air, flapping for it, reaching the boat and untying it before the others could arrive. He made sure Bryce was securely seated before speeding off. Like, I just imagine, like, he's, like, buckling her in, like, just be like, okay, you're good? Okay, let's go.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't have enough time to worry about her seatbelt, dude.
Right? I mean, I'm sure it was just, like, glancing, but in my mind, it was like, he buckles her in.
Yeah, I agree.
But what I like about it, though, is like, you know, we get a lot of his protectiveness and we see it. And here's a moment of it in action and it works.
Yep.
And I think that some of their conflict is, again, Hunt not willing to risk Bryce saying we got to risk it all. And, you know, I wish that there was like, this worked.
Yeah.
Like, this moment worked. And I wish they could have remembered this.
Yeah, but I can see how sometimes it is not time efficient
Yes.
when you're in an emergency to make sure she's buckled in.
It's just a glance.
Now everyone's getting mad at each other because they have the ability to get mad. They're out in the sea. They're not necessarily going to make it back to Lunathion, but at least the rebels are distracted and all dying.
At least. And all dying.
It is shocking, though, how many breadcrumbs are being peppered in here at this moment. Bryce says she's done with Cormac and she's done with Tharion and helping the people they report to. And why is that? Because she's already found a meal, so she's out of there. She wants nothing to do with them. Hunt thinks in response to this, quote, maybe they could now wipe their hands clean of any damning associations, which is ironic because they're about to get caught.
Yeah.
Bryce tells Ruhn, quote, I'd think twice about associating with Agent Daybright. She'll stab you right in the back. Again, ironic, because that's exactly how Ruhn's going to feel later on, even though that's not the reality.
No, that's literally not what happens.
Yeah. Now, this is the moment we return to Hunt and his point of view. I think he feels hope. He's like, we got away from the rebels.
Yeah.
Bryce is telling everyone off. She wants nothing to do with them.
We're good.
We're good. We're safe. We're going to be free.
We get to have sex.
Quote, Hunt turned to monitor the island's shoreline. No boats came after them, and nothing lay ahead except open water. So at the beginning of the chapter, Hunt saw water, and then the mechsuits put water. And now there's just water. And for me, I was like, hope. Hunt has hope for his future with Bryce. Ophion was getting in the way, but now Ophion's out of the way. And it's once again open water and hopeful. But then a black dog, a.k.a. Baxian, makes an appearance.
A.k.a. Sirius Black.
A.k.a. Sirius Black. He's a bad omen. And what does that mean? The hind is close behind.
I just like the image of like a black dog lifted its paw in the direction. Woo! Woo!
It makes me think of like Rowan as a little hunting dog.
Like, yeah, it could use his nose. Like, I'm just like, woo! Yeah.
Can they even lift their paw though?
I don't know. Let's get into some breadcrumbs. In chapter 40, Bryce, quote, pulled a postcard from her purse. Ethan's eyes brightened with recognition at her old tradition. I'm actually sending this off to my mom. It's a postcard when they're not fighting anymore because they're communicating about a meal.
That's right. Still in chapter 40, Isaiah tries to convince Hunt that he should be in charge of the angels, and Hunt turns him down, saying, quote, trust me, I'd rather you be in charge. Which is a nice bit of foreshadowing for the end of Flame and Shadow.
In chapter 41, the Prime tells Bryce, quote, what we were before we arrived here and became the Asteri's creature inside and out. A clue about what happened 15,000 years ago.
In chapter 42, Day drills Ruhn about their mission related to the mechsuit and asks them, where are you going? Where is it at? Blah, blah, blah. And that's because she wants to intersect and make sure they don't get caught.
In chapter 43, Cormac has to make multiple teleporting jumps and can only bring one or two at a time to get the team from Lunathion to Ydra. And he's unsteady and pale once he's done. It shows how much weaker even the strongest Fae are compared to the Fae in Prythian, setting up the parasite narrative in Flame and Shadow.
Yep. And lastly, in chapter 43, when the crew sees the mechsuit prototypes the rebels have stolen from the Asteri, they are described as looking, quote, like a metal sarcophagus. And as we know from Flame and Shadow, in the final battle, Bryce will use the mask to raise the fallen dead, and those dead angels will take over the mechsuits. So yeah, they're basically sarcophagi.
Mummies.
Mummies.
I think you got a question for me.
I do. Jack, how much power do titles really give these characters?
I wrote it and I'm trying to remember it. How much do titles really give these power? How much power do titles really give the characters? You know, you have the practical level of power, right? Like there's I'm the princess, so I can go anywhere I want, right? And you have the practical power. And then you also have the power of fear, of like, you know, like people are going to fear me because like I am the Umbra Mortis. I think when I was originally considering this question, how much power do titles really have? I was thinking about the emotional power and the power that they have over themselves. Mm-hmm. I think that they end up they're captives of their own titles. Mm-hmm. Think about Captain whatever or the Starborn Princess, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think the Umbra Mortis, you know, we're talking about titles in a more practical sense and like physical action, but going through this and going through how much everyone is struggling, they're just trapped within themselves and the narrative that they tell themselves about their own titles.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And in that way, the titles aren't actually giving power, they're taking power.
Exactly.
Right? They're confining them. They believe the titles confine them in a way they don't want to be confined. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, how is this title, I don't know, think of it as a ski mask. Like it's almost liberating to be disguised sometimes, right? Yeah. But none of the characters see that for what it could be. Yeah. Not, at least right now.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like during the pandemic when I would wear a mask, sunglasses, and a hat, I was like, no one knows who I am. Mm-hmm. And it, you know, it felt mysterious and everything. But I think that they're so caught up in what their title is that it ends up giving too much power to themselves, like in a negative way where it's taking power rather than focusing on what an actual title can get them.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
So that was my thought.
I think that's a great thought.
Thank you.
I don't know that I have any thoughts that are different from yours. I don't think so. I don't think there are.
Well, you're like, no, I don't have any thoughts different from yours. Your thoughts were great.
Your thoughts were great.
And mine are I'm teasing you. No, but no. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not.
I see. Okay, clicked. I was like, but I was giving you a compliment. Oh, I was giving myself a compliment. I see now. I'm tired.
It's okay. I love you. It's fine. What was it earlier? Can you get me my glass? You're so pretty.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we will be exploring chapters 44 through 47 of House of Sky and Breath.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a future mini episode or on a Patreon exclusive episode.
If you are enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can follow us on TikTok or Instagram at the handle booktalkforbooktalk. Bye!
Need a sip of water. I want the listeners to know that stop it. It is like been such a, like, just the tone and everything has been such a theme of our friendship. Stop it as you're trying to swallow your water and you can't.
I know what's going on Patreon this week. Oh man,
it might be just on the actual live, or that might survive the actual final cut.
Oh gosh,
yeah.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.